I am Linda van Tilburg for National Security News. Well, today we're honored to have Rear Admiral Hanno Teuteberg, a distinguished former officer of the South African Navy, with us. Admiral Teuteberg held several senior positions during his career, including Deputy Chief of the Navy in South Africa, from which he retired in 2017. Well, given his extensive experience, he's uniquely qualified to discuss the strategic significance of South Africa's Simonstown Naval Base. Thank you for joining us, Admiral Hanna.
Pleasure. Pleasure. Thank you.
Well, a pressing topic in current geopolitical discussions is the role of the Simonstown Naval Base as a pivotal point in this rivalry between the United States and China. So, could you begin by explaining the geographical location of Simonstown and why it is strategically important?
Okay, so the oceans have become highways, and they carry probably more than 90% of the world trade on them. These highways come together in what we call maritime choke points. Maritime choke points are where it's like Hospital Bend on the way to Cape Town. You actually have to get through an area of high traffic. You're forced to take your ship through there. And there are a number of these very important points around the world. In the past few years, the Cape Sea route may have become a forgotten choke point. It certainly did not was not like that in 1955 when the United Kingdom put together the Simonstown Agreement specifically to keep the Cape Sea route clear during the Cold War at the time, and assisted greatly with the South African Navy establishment or growth at that time. And during the past few years, it may have fluctuated, but certainly it is right up there in volume for oil or petroleum goods, with the other top, I would say, 5 choke points in the world. One would look at the Malacca Straits, which is a very serious choke point, and that's why Singapore has received so many friendship requests and have so many friends, because it plays such a vital role in keeping the Malacca Straits clear. Um, these choke points are obviously very sensitive and can be uh, influenced by matters ashore.
So, some analysts suggest that the reason why President Donald Trump has suddenly focused on South Africa may be linked to the significance of Simonstown. What are your thoughts on this idea, the idea of Trump being interested in Simonstown?
Well, my personal thoughts is that he might be going around about it the wrong way. But I do see his sudden serious interest in the Panama Canal, which is a maritime choke point. And then you look at the Cape Sea route, and specifically with what is happening in the Red Sea. Um, it has become very difficult for ships to transit through there with peace of mind. And when people say, but it is more fuel to come around the Cape, they tend to forget that it's extremely expensive to go through the Suez Canal, and they leave that out of the equation. I can give you an example of a German task force on the way from the Pacific, I would say in December last year. And this task force chose to come around the Cape Sea route instead of going directly home via the Suez Canal. So the Suez Canal and the Gulf of Aden have become serious challenges to ships. And I would say, I read somewhere that about 50% of all ship traffic now divert around the Cape of Good Hope. And you can see that it looks like Adley Street out there at night.
So, South Africa had these joint naval exercises with both China and Russia. How do you think the West views those exercises?
Look, South Africa has the official word is that South Africa has several exercises with several countries, including the United States. Exercise Shared Accord comes to mind. We've had several naval ships from other countries as well here. Exercise Good Hope with the German Navy, various passing exercises with NATO countries. I do believe that the Brics attempt to have exercises was quite photogenic, and a lot of media came out of it. I'm not totally sure how much tactical um, assistance came out of that, but it's true that both the Indian Navy and the Chinese Navy do spend a lot of time making friends, specifically on the east coast of Africa.
Well, there was that case of the Lady R, the Russian ship that caused so much furore between South Africa and the United States. You know Simonstown very well, you know. So what did you make of that whole episode? Because the people of Simonstown who were watching that, you know, there's different interpretations of what happened there.
In my opinion, the main thing that comes to mind is that the media was handled extremely poorly in the situation, that it is virtually impossible to offload any ship in Simonstown without the entire Simonstown Hill looking down and making remarks about it. I do know that the NCACC is a very strict forum. And if people say that we may have exported arms to Russia, then one needs to be reminded that they use completely different calibers, weapons. We use NATO standard weapons. The ammunition that we manufacture in this country is NATO standard ammunition. I do not believe that it was more than a storm in a teacup.
Can we come back to the strategic importance of Cape Town? Are there examples from other countries of how this could be handled in a good way, in a strategic way that benefits South Africa and make sure it doesn't get involved in some spat between maybe China and the US or Russia?
The Gulf of Guinea is a piracy hotbed, and the Gulf of Guinea has been very instrumental in bringing all role players together under the ECOWAS umbrella, including French, US, and a number of other parties that assist them. As we speak, their chiefs of navies are sitting together in another conference. They have a maritime domain center or maritime command center in various countries along the coast. Nigeria, Ghana, Senegal's navy is growing rapidly, and I think the big problem here is command and control and directing our forces. And ECOWAS with the Yaoundé Accord is a prime example of how to do things. On the other side, the Djibouti Accord and the amendments to it should have sorted out specifically the east coast of Africa. But I am hesitant to say that I do not think that much action is coming from the African side at this stage. One must
So
realize that maritime security is a multinational, multi-agency effort. It has to, in our country, include the Department of Transport, the Department of SARS, the Navy, SAMSA, various organizations, each which guard their own little bundle of finances heavily, and which may result in silo management.
so do you think there's a way that South Africa could stay out of these geopolitical games or this big chess game that's taking place at the moment?
I think South Africa should use it. I think it's the ideal opportunity to grab this moment where all the ships are coming around our ports. If our ports were run properly and managed properly, They certainly could increase their profit margins significantly in terms of just repair or replenishment. There are several reasons why the replenishment is not taking place and why Lüderitz, or not Lüderitz, Walfish Bay and Maputo and Nacala are doing so well. So we have to look at the privatization, and I see there's a lot of talk about triple Ps happening in this country. But I think in terms of uh, supposedly being neutral, our country, and this is my own personal opinion, our country should play the neutral game then, and should be perhaps more than like India or Brazil, who are members, core members of Brics, but are playing both sides very nicely.
Was it on the commercial side where you said it could actually play a bigger role?
Much better, bigger. We have the capability, we have the harbors, and we could be playing a much larger role if you look at the influx into Walfish Bay or Maputo for that matter.
And what about Richards Bay?
Richards Bay could be used, but I would say when it comes to repair ports, mainly Durban and Cape Town, and when it comes to replenishment of specifically fuel or bunkers, a variety of ports could be used.
But there's a lot of people saying at the moment that the present government says it's neutral, says it's non-aligned, but it's actually not.
Well, you're speaking to the wrong person because I'm a Navy admiral, and if you want an answer for that, you should speak to a politician. But um, yes, the perception, as I said, was that one should play the game equally, and one should try and play both sides to your own benefit.
So, while we're speaking to you, could you give us an assessment of the readiness of the South African Navy? Is it adequately equipped to defend our coastline?
You know, I'm retired, and there are many admirals and captains and commanders in the South African Navy that can answer that question adequately. But there are, in terms of maritime security, there are a number of tools that you need in your toolbox to be able to do the job properly. And the SA Navy needs to do the job properly, or somebody else will come and do it for us, as is the case of Somalia with Operation Atalanta from the European Union. So if you look at those tools, the first tangible tools would be maritime domain awareness. That means we need to know what's going on out off our coast. And I am unsure where we stand with that, but I can tell you that one should have radar stations along the coast, and one should have specifically a SADC, integrated SADC maritime command post to monitor what's going on. And this command post should be able to get information from satellites, from radar stations ashore, and the one where we definitely have a huge delta is maritime patrol or surveillance aircraft or maritime surveillance drones. And I'm sure that we both know that South Africa do not possess a capability in this regard. Furthermore, the South African Navy has several projects on the go. The main one at the moment is Project Biro, where they're accepting the last patrol vessel from Darwin shipyards. These are magnificent ships to do the job. Whether they are operational or whether the submarines are operational or the frigates is not for me to answer.
Can we talk a bit about what you're doing at the moment? So, you and retired admiral, and we saw you at the court case on the tuna bond scandal, testifying. So, what are you doing at the moment?
Well, the court case is finished. Well, the arbitration case in Paris is complete, and the court case and possible subsequent appeals are finished. the big thing there was to be able to counter the arguments that the deal was a good deal for Mozambique in terms of tuna vessels and buying an entire navy off the shelf, and the shipyards that go with it. I believe that we are our side, which is the Mozambican government, will be reimbursed. They have a large number of assets in probably very poor condition at this
Mm.
stage. It was more than a decade ago, uh, and they must do with it what they want to. But in terms of maritime strategy, I think Mozambique hopefully will follow the path of an integrated multinational approach. I am fully aware that the South African Navy has been trying to work towards a standardized vessel to patrol SADC waters, which could be built in a variety of countries within SADC. That would be a good idea. As for me, I'm a pensioner. I keep my eye on maritime strategy, but mostly I'll keep my eye on the weather.
So are you still a sailor?
Still a sailor.
Oh, Admiral Teuteberg, thank you so much for speaking to us. That was really interesting.
Pleasure.